Hello and thank you for stopping by the ThomasMetal75 channel of YouTube. Normally this is Massachusetts beer review related, but I've been trying to do this and I filmed a couple of versions and wasn't really happy with it, so I'm just going to do this live. I'm using the CameraFi Live app. It's not going to be able to zoom in or anything like that, but I want to do a tour, if you will, of my arcade system here. My arcade cabinet. MAME cabinet, if you will. Now, MAME is an emulator, and emulators for computers are meant to recreate old systems, and then you download these things called ROMs to play old vintage games. So this MAME emulator allows me, with this particular arcade stick here, to play old school and some modern. The computer, which is right here, it's here. I have this Toshiba 1 terabyte hard drive that has all the files on it for some emulators that I don't have loaded up into the main system here. And Pinball was big in there. Software is what's called a front fancy to make it look nice when you load it. So after I load the model, you get $300 process, and it is gigahertz GTX 750, so it's not really bad graphics cards that are real super duper high. So over here, and you're gonna here. So before that, this is a controls. It's called a stick. It's got one joysticks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 buttons on each side. Player 1, 2. There are mouse buttons in here with the trackball as a mouse, and here. And you also use these for pinball and loading up some coins. So I'm going to put the coffee on the ground. You're just going to have to deal with a coffee cup. So if I go and use the mouse, so I'm going to go into HyperSpin. And I have the audio system. So HyperSpin has a bunch of different consoles for the emulators that you can load up. Now you can have Atari Lynx, original Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance. Almost whatever you can think of is what's going to be available to use on HyperSpin. So again, this is a arcade MAME system, so this is what I have it configured to use. That doesn't even have... let's try Super PacMan. Okay. So what I have here is it loads into a random game every time I start and select MAME. And I have it playing most of the games that videos are for this little demo of what the game looks like. It's going to be on there. And it says, what the name of the game is, what year it came out, and who made it. And it's all you have to do is go down on the control stick to find games, or you can hold it to the right and select a game by letter if you want to go left or right in the joystick to find it. So say I want to find Berzerk, go to letter B, and I go down and I try to find Berzerk, which is a great old school vector graphics style game. So here's Berzerk, made by Stern Electronics in 1980. So all I have to do is press player 1, and I'm in And I have the side artwork as best as possible loaded up in these games. I have them cropped so that it fills the screen, otherwise it won't fill the screen. Epic. And on this version of MAME, I think it's MAME FXUI 64 for the arcade emulator. All I have to do to get into the settings of the system is to press on my keyboard here. I press the tab button. And I don't know if you can really see that, but you can change the inputs of player 1 and 2, their controls, sticks, and the button configuration there. Or you can do it for just this machine. You can change the dip switching information if you want to get that hardcore into your game. Machines information, slider controls, or speaker and resolution of screen positions. Here's one for the video, so I can take off what's called the bezels, which is the artwork around the screen. So that's what it looks like without the artwork, and then that's what it looks like with it. So I thought that looked a little bit more, authentic to arcades. And you can crop that artwork, or you can have it in full screen. So you can see when it's in full screen, it is much smaller of a screen. This is a 37-inch Samsung, so if you set it to crop, then it works much better. Or you can do standard 4:3 or pixel, or even a cocktail mode for cocktail style machines. And then plug in information, which there aren't really any, and then sometimes my computer wants to crap the bed for some reason. And then this crap happens. Yeah, ask me later. Come on. This is the only, yeah. Ask me later. That's the only downside. Yeah, close all tabs. Yeah. Goodbye. Sorry. That's the only problem with this thing being a computer, actually, is that you need to get rid of everything that doesn't need to be there. Even though it's on the internet, you still want to have some security. So let's go back into Berzerk, because that was friggin' weird. And you just press any button to go in. So I'm going to go to the left side here of the control stick, and I'm going to put in some coins after Berzerk loads. So it says on the bottom, 2 coins, and I'm going to press player 1. And the idea in Berzerk is to kill all of these robots. I mean, you can leave the room upstairs, downstairs, or to the right if you want. And then there's this guy named Evil Otto that will kill you if you don't run. He's that smiley face guy. Yep, now I run away from Evil Otto. Yeah, fight like a robot. Okay. Right. And then I died. Alright, so I've set it up that if I press player 1 and 2 simultaneously, I exit back into the menu screen to select the game. So, one of the things that's kind of cool is you can set up favorites in HyperSpin. So for my favorites, I have Metal Slug 2, 3, 4, 5... and Metal Slug X, all made by Neo Geo SNK. Millipede, which was the sequel to Centipede. Missile Command, Mortal Kombat games, Miss PacMan and PacMan. This cool game called Quantum that uses the trackball. Robotron 2084 uses both joysticks. Shuffle Shot, Shuffleboard. Trackball game, cool. Shoes, horseshoe game from 1990 Atari. Simpsons Bowling, Space Invaders, Championship Edition of Street Fighter 2. Third Strike. 3. Fight for the Future, Street Fighter, great fighting game. Sunset Riders, great Konami game from the 90s. Tapper, Budweiser. You know, Root Beer Tapper, it's with Budweiser. Tekken Tag Tournament. Sweet. Tempest. Spinner game. But I don't have a spinner, so I have a trackball to use. Tetris. Simpsons. An obscure game called War of the Bugs, or Monstrous Maneuvers in a Mushroom Maze. Kind of like... kind of like Centipede meets Galaga, Galaxian. World-class bowling, a trackball bowling game. There's Berzerk. Centipede, classic Atari game with the trackball from 1984. Tekken, or Tecmo's game Dead or Alive 2, or Dead or Alive Plus Plus from 1998. All these Golden Tee games that use the trackball. Killer Instinct and the original Mario Brothers. So then if I press the coin button here, I'll go back into the menu screen for the consoles. And I go back into future, or I call them Pinball Classics for the MAME. Then if I press this button down here, I can select between genres. So, you know, I can look at all games, action, paddle, ball and paddle games, baseball, basketball, beat 'em up, biking, bowling, boxing, fighting, fighter, driving. I do have a wheel down below here that I can use for that. Shooter, shoot 'em up, just your basic stuff that you want in an arcade, that you might want to search for from an arcade standpoint. So, I tried to incorporate this, what's called Future Pinball, but I haven't gotten it to work in any menu loading type screens here. So, again, if you're in the menu screen to select a console, just press that coin button. It'll ask you if you want to exit, and I press player 1, and then I exit. And then you get back into Windows 10. So one of the cool things that I can do on this machine is run some pinball emulation. I have 2 pinball emulators. One of them I really like is called Future Pinball, and you can download games. You can find them on the internet. The table files to actually play these games, and some of them are a lot of them are recreations of tables we all know and love, and a lot of them as well are user creations that were never in a arcade. So that's kind of cool. I have a lot of them that were in the arcades, and they span any decade from the arcades. So I don't know. Say I want to play Lord of the Rings from Stern, a more modern game. All I gotta do is load it up from where it is in the file. Load it up inside of Future Pinball, which is an editor. You can edit your own pinball games if you want. Then on the side of the screen it says Play Table. And then it loads up the table. Sometimes the more of the modern games that have a little bit more intense graphics take a little bit longer to load. So I apologize for that. And sometimes they don't work quite properly because, again, we're just emulating. It's not the actual hardware or the actual machine. Okay, so here is Future Pinball with, if I press tab, you see the back glass of Lord of the Rings. It'll show the screen from the back glass for all of the in-game video and the scoring purposes. If I go and press that button, or if I go and press this first button up here that I have set to, I guess it's left control, it'll put in a coin. And then if I press the player 1 button, it'll start the game. And those coin buttons from MAME, from the arcade emulator, they work to function the flippers. And to launch the ball, I pull back on the right joystick. And then we play pinball. Again, all of these in Future Pinball, and there's another emulator called Visual Pinball. all of these pinball machines were actually user created. So to play an actual pinball machine, well, to play a pinball machine on a computer that is a real machine in the real world, that looks this good and sounds this good, with the exact audio, is kind of slightly mind-boggling to me. How good it is, how good it can be, how faithful of a representation it can actually be. Alright, so if I want to exit the game, all I gotta do is press escape and it brings me back to the main screen here. There's another pinball emulator that's kind of the same. It's called Visual Pinball, so I won't really show you that. But you have options, and you can make Visual Pinball and for Future Pinball, just playing into actual pinball cabinets. And I was going to use this screen here for the back glass, but I don't have the correct cables for the adapter to split the signal into two screens on my graphics card, so I have to get one of those at some point if I want to do that. The only other thing I want to show you on this machine today here is I do have the Steam system, which is pretty much modern gaming, what a lot of people use for computers these days and for a modern gaming setup. You know, you can go to the store up here and download games and purchase games for download, kind of like the Ouya, but in computer mode, but on a computer. And some of the games work well on this joystick, and some of them work better with a gamepad or like a 360 controller from Xbox, Microsoft. But one cool game that does work really well on this is PacMan Championship Edition DX Plus. So I can load that up right now. It says launching. And I have to use the trackball a little bit in the settings of the game, but it still works fairly nicely. It's a modern PacMan game. It's a little different than your standard PacMan or Ms. PacMan game. So I'll just go into a table, I guess. Now you can do different things based on the mode of the game. So I don't have all the modes unlocked yet in the game, but I can see how many points I can get in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, in a short trial of just a minute, or, man, I guess that's a time trial, a short one. So I'll just do a quick bit of the 5-minute one before I let you guys go today. And you can change the difficulty in any of the visuals you want. Change the visuals of the of the board and the characters, or you can just change the characters, what they look like. I'm just going to keep everything auto and show you how that works. So basically what you do here, you have bombs you can use for protection, and you go around and collect the pellets for coins, and every time you clear the board, you go faster and faster. And also what happens is there are going to be these ghosts that are asleep on the board, and once you wake them up, they chase you. They follow you. And the really great thing about this game, well, I just did it, unfortunately, is the more you have in a line together, and then when you get one of those power pellets, you can really rack up the points by eating them. And again, if you press enter, which I have as one of these buttons on my arcade stick, it'll launch the bomb, and the ghosts will stop chasing you and go back to the middle of the board if you're in a really tight squeeze where you can't get out. So I mean, it's a cool version of PacMan. It's definitely different, it's definitely unique, it's definitely innovative. It's not a 2-player mode. I think there is a PacMan 4-player versus in like Dave and Buster's now, or something like that. So, alright, I'm gonna let myself die here. Thank you for checking out the channel. This kind of lengthier lengthy kind of a review. I know a little different for ThomasMetal75, but here's what I got for you today. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, want to ask me how I've done something here, let me know. Didn't mention this, but this is a sit-down style machine I got from Wrestling Arcade Stick cabinet. And it came in like 3 or 4 boxes on pallets from, I think it was UPS. But anyways, or FedEx. But anyways, questions, comments, down below, please. Until next time, keep playing those great arcade games. Cheers, I will see you soon. Back to Pac-Man Championship Edition I go.